Houston Cougars, a furious comeback to knock off Duke and advance to the national championship game.
Here is Zion Chris, big hole, open sesame. Zion Chris, wow, the 72-yard house call.
Stick it in your pipe and smoke it, baby. Yes!
Welcome to the Scott Home Podcast. Back here, late April. Plenty of stuff in and out of season to talk about from the world of Houston Cougar sports. Bobby, we were both away from our home base this past weekend. You were seeing friends and hitting the links down in, we'll say, the southern part of the greater Houston area. A city you and I both know well and find time to visit sometimes. I was in sunny Southern California. How are we doing, friend?
Good, man. Overall, feeling good. Took a couple of days, like you said, on the south side. Hung out with some friends. Got to do some cool stuff. Had a really good time. So glad to be back home, though. As much as I love Houston, it's nice to sleep in your own bed sometimes. After pretty much 2 weeks of being on the road, it's going to be nice to have a week or two at the house.
Yeah, exactly. People who don't have to travel a lot for work, I don't think, which I don't consider myself among, but I have stretches where I either am like traveling a lot for work or traveling a lot personal, and yeah, nothing beats being in your own bed, even if we both do love and sometimes miss the city I grew up in and a city you spent a lot of your formative years in, Houston, Texas, home of the Houston Cougars, which we're going to talk about here tonight. And we'll lead off with some Cougar men's basketball talk. We didn't have as action-packed of a week as the one immediately before, but certainly had some newsworthy happenings. Last episode, we talked about Lamar big man Braden East as a likely imminent addition to the roster. Within a day or two of the episode dropping, East publicly committed to U of H. Not a ton new to add because we did talk about him last episode, Bobby, but what do you want to add about Braden East becoming, at this point as we record here, the newest Houston Cougar men's basketball player?
Yeah, he was a really good player. Lamar finally got some playing time last year. Like you mentioned last week, averaged 13 points and 9 boards a game. The thing that catches my attention is that Sampson really, with this portal class, just kind of overall, feels like he's going back to his roots a little bit. Maybe not the highest of high-end talent, you know. I don't think anyone that we've brought in is like a top 5 portal guy or anything like that. But a lot of this portal class kind of gives me those Milos vibes where you were like, yeah, I can really see that kind of working out here. And Sampson sees something. I'm sure this will work out. A bunch of guys who have shown flashes of brilliance, but no one, like I said, that you're going to see in the top 5 portal guys or anything like that. They're just the kind of guys that you want to see. You may not see a ton of people ranking this portal class super high, but I feel like they're all culture fits, and by January, February, you're going to see a top 10 Houston Cougar basketball team with a bunch of guys who just play the way that Coach Sampson wants them to play.
Yeah, I mean, you look at who the top portal guys were last year. I mean, some hits there, like Yaxel Lendenborg, the number 1 portal player last cycle, worked out pretty well. It was a critical player.
Yeah, it seemed like
for
that
the
one was pretty good for him.
Winning team, but like their number 5 guy last year, Darian Williams, went from Tech to NC State. I mean, NC State made the first 4, but I don't think anyone would confuse Darian Williams with the 5th best player last cycle. Who else is there? PJ Haggerty. I mean, PJ Haggerty scored a ton of points for K-State. Cool. He scored a ton of points for a dog shit team. Like that's not really, and I feel like that's every portal cycle. Like there are obvious ones where I'm like, yeah, of course he's highly ranked. That makes sense. I expect this guy's gonna have a positive impact. And ones where I'm just like, I have no idea what they're looking at here. I mean, again, like Silas Demery was on a very good UConn team. That UConn team wasn't really that good because of Silas Demery here. Like he played a role here and there, but wasn't really like driving the bus there. Jaden Quaintance at Kentucky was the number 10 guy last year, barely played if at all for them. So I'm not going to go through like the entire 2025 there, but like you see it, especially I think as transfer portal evaluating is a newer thing than high school evaluating. You see that, and you see teams bringing like the new shiniest toy, and just Kelvin Sampson every year, like brings in guys who come in here and are difference makers. And it's to the point where it's like, well, 2 years ago, Milos doesn't scream at you like, oh, wow, I can't believe we brought him in. But you kind of just, you take it on faith that Kelvin Sampson knows what he's doing here and knows like the right guys to bring in with his system. I like that East went from playing not very much as a freshman to being the Southland's leading rebounder. Like, you want to see a guy improve over his college career. Like, yes, it's always good when you see a guy hit the ground running from high school to Division I. That's a big jump, and it does say something positive when guys can make that jump pretty quickly, but it's not a sprint. Like, it's a marathon. And I like seeing a guy who didn't get discouraged. He didn't immediately transfer out of Lamar after really not seeing much of the court now 2 seasons ago, dug in there, got to work, and in his first season really playing meaningful minutes, I think was a standout big man. I don't think it hurts him also for his fit here that he played multiple seasons under former longtime Kelvin Sampson assistant here, Alvin Brooks, who apparently played a big part in helping East find his next college program. Again, some other things that intrigued me digging into his most recent season. I mean, again, not surprising given what Kelvin Sampson and the staff prioritized, but East is a high-level rebounder, finished the season second in all of D1 in defensive rebounding percentage, 68th in offensive rebounding percentage, and also shot a really respectable 71% from the free throw line while going more than occasionally to the charity stripe. I think, again, first full season playing a lot like that, that's pretty impressive. Pretty confident, provided everyone's healthy. Your starting front court is still going to be Tugler and Delrico Gillespie, at least to begin next season, but super, super intriguing big man group. You got Tugler and Gillespie, who have, in their own ways, proven to be high-level big men. You have 7'1" freshman Erfan Diane, 5-star big man, top big man by most services in the class of 2026. And now East, a guy who's a proven high-level rebounder at a lower level, who overperformed being essentially a 0-star recruit in 2 college seasons. Big jump to make from Southland to Big 12, so you don't want to go too crazy with the praise. But, I mean, not overstating to say this big man group on this Cougar men's basketball team is going to be, I think, the deepest we've had. Obviously, I haven't proven anything in the court yet, as compared to, 2 seasons ago when you had Javier, Wani, and JoJo, or even 4 seasons ago when you had Josh Carlton, Wani, and those guys. But very, very exciting group.
Yeah, I think you kind of mentioned jumping up from the Southland to Big 12 competition. Kind of reminds me quite a bit of what we saw Khalifa Sacco do. Maybe not the most dominant guy or anything like that, but can still come up and be very, very useful on your on a really good squad.
Yeah, Khalifa Sacco with a bit more offensive game at his level and multiple years of eligibility to develop, which I think that's the play here, that Braden East might need a season next year. And the good thing is, you're not counting on Braden East nearly as much as you were counting on Khalifa Sacco, because Khalifa Sacco is basically the only bench rotation big man that you had this season, and the only guy you could throw out there if you had Tugler and or Sanak getting in foul trouble. And you have options here. You're not relying on Erfan Diane, a guy who, again, great recruit, but he's going to be a freshman playing his first season of college basketball. You're not having to rely on him overly. You're not having to rely on Braden East overly. And again, Delrico Gillespie, as exciting as he is, it'll be his first season playing power conference college basketball. Like, it's distributed. You have 4 guys here. Obviously, you're hoping JoJo improves. Obviously, you're hoping Delrico Gillespie is ready for Big 12 basketball as compared to the MAC and Diane and East, obviously. But that you have 4 options here, I think really puts you in a good spot. It really doesn't put too much pressure on any one of these guys, even if the 2 most veteran guys, Tugler and Gillespie, you're expecting improvement from, or in Gillespie's case, the ability to make the jump up to a much higher level of college basketball.
Yeah, and I think one of the big problems we saw last season, to me, you can tell me if I'm wrong or not, you can disagree here, but it kind of felt like depth got to us at times in a different way than how depth has gotten us in the past. Like, it always felt like depth kind of got us in terms of you had a lot of really good talent and maybe you had 7 or 8 guys, but you'd have a couple of injuries and that ate your depth. This year, just especially with big men, it really didn't feel like you had it felt like you had three, and JoJo kept getting into lots of foul trouble. So really, you were playing with two, and having a fourth big man is really going to be useful for this team.
Yeah, God bless Said Lot, like great kid, but ultimately in his fourth year in the program still wasn't to the standard that you needed to play him regularly, and that's why he's not here anymore. Good kid as he was, that's why he's not here anymore, and that's why Braden East and Erfan Diane are your likely bench big men next season. Little less clear where Kelvin Sampson goes next, but as we record tonight, this is Tuesday, April 21st, just to date this a little bit, in case something has happened and someone's screaming at their car radio or their smartphone, like, why aren't they talking about this guy? 11 players right now projected to be on the 26-27 Cougar men's basketball roster, which leaves you a potential of 2 open scholarships. So I don't think we go into the coming season with 11 scholarship guys on the roster, but I don't know where you go next in terms of, are you adding a Division I transfer? Are you adding an international player, a high school recruit who might be more of a multi-year development guy to fill in those openings? I think that's kind of unclear right now. You had an interesting name, Sebastian William Adams, an Auburn transfer who played at St. John's in the Houston area, but Williams Adams committed to Vandy this afternoon. Haven't seen any other names super connected to U of H the way the previous few guys we talked about were even before it became official. So definitely keep an eye on this, as U of H should have their men's basketball roster finalized over the next few weeks. Bobby, gut reaction, gun to your head. If it's any of those 3 categories I mentioned, D1 transfer, international player, or high school recruit, what are you using? Let's say you use one more scholarship to have 12 scholarship guys next year. Which one of those categories are you using on? If you want to say position 2, but I was thinking just where would you target this?
Yeah. And actually, I believe it's 4 more, because I think the limit now is 15. The roster limit is 15 now. I believe so. It went up with women's, I believe. I think I saw that when I was doing the women's to make sure I had the scholarship limit right.
That sounds right. I'm surprised nobody has corrected like the 3 or 4 scholarship grids that I've posted, because people, I don't know if you notice, like people online, people love correcting people online. So I'm shocked no one has taken took the opportunity to do so. I might have done so here. Sorry. Okay, yeah, so what are you using your next scholarship?
On? I think I would be surprised if we use all 15. I don't think we used.
You're correct, by the way. It is 15. It was 13 previously. It's 15 now.
Yes, that's what it was. But I wouldn't mind seeing us grab an international player, but this is going to sound crazy. Sampson just doesn't seem like the kind of guy who grabs an international player. Not that he can't, or when I say won't grab an international guy, like a guy who hasn't played in the States before. I feel like
I don't think we have. We've had international guys, but they've all like either played at American
high school ball
or played at an American college previous to.
Yeah, so I don't really see that happening. I wouldn't mind seeing that happen. But if he's going to do anything, and he's talked about this, where he thinks he's going to try and grab some developmental guys. So that puts you down kind of at high school, but it's pretty late in the cycle to go high school here. So I'm going to go with a lower level D1 transfer, or I could see him doing something crazy, going to like grab a D2 guy and just say, you know what, you're coming here, maybe a JUCO guy, something like that, who I really like the way you look, kid, come in here and ride my bench for 2 years, and let's see where we go from there. So I think it's going to be more of the transfer variety than I think it'll be anything else.
I'm going to say, and this is a specific category for something that's like, I'm not actually saying a player, but I'm going to say a guy we were in on from a staff that moved to where like they're not sure they're going to, like somebody who committed to a coach who got fired, or somebody who committed to a coach who got promoted and then might not be as in on that player as a multi-year development player. Just because I'm with you. Like, I don't know who is on the staff's big board right now, who they're targeting, what have you, but you're right. Like, we haven't done a lot of direct to international, if any, that I remember. And you're starting to get a bit late in the game for a transfer portal, even though I think that's probably the most likely of the 3 categories to see additions from. I would say developmental high school player, someone kind of like McCarty 2 seasons ago when he redshirted, or Bryce Jackson in the most recent one, or someone who's willing to do that. And then maybe in 27, 28, start to break the rotation, kind of like McCarty did in this most recent season. So I think that's the category that I would go after. But we also got the official news over the weekend. News we all expected. Kingston Flemings' U of H career would be one season that he is declaring for the upcoming NBA draft. You could say maybe with Chris Stanak Jr., there's some debate on how high in the first round he'd go, but no such debate here. Even the most ardent, selfish U of H fan would agree there's not really anything left to do for Kingston in the college game, and we're all expecting to see him taken inside the top 10 of the draft. Though speaking for myself, hopefully not to a certain Metroplex-based NBA team, but not an exaggeration. We're not going to see very many players ever put on the U of H uniform and have a single season like the one Kingston has. And this has been a program that's pretty reliably delivered us a long list of incredible players year on year, and yet I would still say the one we just saw from Kingston Flemings is in pretty rarefied air. And it would definitely be an exaggeration to say that he came into U of H as anything like an underrated recruit, but he didn't come in here with the hype of being a certain one and done player, maybe like his teammates Stanak did. I mean, he was the consensus third highest rated recruit coming in of the 4 high school players who signed with U of H in that class of 2025 behind Stanak and Isaiah Harwell, but an absolute dynamite player, a guy who could create for himself, create for his teammates, had that undeniable clutch gene in his game. Couldn't have been more clear by, we'll say, last Thanksgiving week or so that this was probably going to be Flemings' only season in college basketball. Bobby, get your chance to talk about Kingston here, but I want to kick it off this way. In a few years, what's going to be your word association if I say to you, Kingston Flemings' U of H career? What's going to immediately come to your mind from this season?
To be honest, it's going to sound terrible, but it's short. It was a short career. It was great. Don't get me wrong. It was really great. And again, not that I disagree with him leaving or be like, he should come back at, like, yeah, sure, I'd love it. But if you're a consensus top 10 pick at worst, like, go, brother. But yeah, I think that would be the first thing, is short, but definitely wouldn't be disappointing or anything like that. Arguably one of the best freshmen we've ever seen come through the program.
I mean, I think the best. Like, who's better? Who had a better freshman season under Sampson?
I don't know. I was even going back before Sampson.
Oh yeah.
So it's hard to find one, right? So like he's it was really good. What can we say that we haven't already said? The guy just went out and got buckets, and like you said, came in, and he wasn't the one that everyone was excited about in this class. That was Chris Stanak. Kingston Flemings, when we started the season, you and I kind of felt like he was going to be the fifth man, coming off the bench behind some guys, and you had 2 starters, like all conference guys, and he kind of forced his way into that starting lineup where you had no choice but to play him. And that's not something you see from freshmen very often. So really excited about what we saw from him and what we are going to see from him in a Dallas Mavericks uniform.
Hope not. For me, that clutch 3 to take the lead late at home against Tech is always going to be one of those regular season moments that is going to live in my mind. The incredible 40-plus point performance, admittedly in a loss, but just one of the most insane individual performances. Like, you left that game against Tech. Yes, it was a loss, but I almost was just like, I think I was still more in awe about, like, I mean, obviously in the abstract, I didn't want to lose to Tech. Like, I didn't like that, but I probably left it as not upset as I could be, because I was just like, I just saw probably top 3 individual Cougar performance that I'm ever going to see in a basketball game here. Like, it was just unbelievable. Kind of an overlooked one. He led you with 19 points in the head-to-head against fellow presumptive high draft pick AJ DeBonsa when you beat BYU in Provo. I mean, just a dude like that. And that sounds like simplistic, but a guy who could just get you a tough bucket, a guy who it was so evident so quickly in his freshman season outside of U of H. It wasn't just like it wasn't U of H fans having to sell the mass public that, no, this guy is that good. It was the college basketball public, the draft industrial complex seeing a few weeks of this kid and being like, oh man, we were way low in this kid out of high school. He's a one and done. I've told this story on here. I've told it to you. I was sitting behind a few. I can't remember what team they were a fan of, but they were fans of one of the other teams at the Players era, but they weren't affiliated with U of H in Tennessee, and they were just kind of watching the U of H Tennessee game at Players era, and we was talking with them a little bit, and they're just like, well, how many years do you think he's gonna be in college? And I was just like, you're looking at it, buddy. Like, he doesn't have another year in college after this one. No, you think so? I was like, yes, I'm confident. Yes. And I hope they remember that conversation and think of what a ball knower I clearly am. But back to, I mean, it's incredible. Like, wish in some universe we could have gotten multiple years of Kingston Flemings, but the 1 year we did get was one of the best U of H seasons, regardless of sport, that I've ever witnessed. And in that sense, I'm sad to see him go, but in the, I think, larger sense, I'm really excited to see what this young man's pro career looks like, because it's going to be a good one. And we'll say for the last time, I'm really hoping it's not for a certain DFW based. I mean, it would it would bother San Antonio Spurs fans because he's a San Antonio kid to have him end up with the Mavericks. And weirdly enough, I don't feel the same animus towards the Mavericks that I do like the Rangers and the Cowboys and even the Stars. Like, it's fine. Maybe if you guys are good for like a decade or straight or something like that, like, yeah, it'll come back. Like, maybe like Dirk era probably felt a little strongly towards it. Now I'm just saying, like, yeah, it's fine. Like, if it's like Cooper and Kingston, like, leading you guys to 5 or 6 straight playoffs while the Rockets futz around with 40-year-old like Kevin Durant, yeah, maybe I'll start feeling some kind of way about it. But yeah, hope. I saw him go to the Hawks in like a mock draft today. I'd feel pretty good about it. I am very neutral in the Hawks. The Hawks kind of exist in this liminal space where I don't think about them other than like 1 or 2 times a year that they have to be on a playoff game that's on my TV. I'd feel pretty good about that. I'd rock a Kingston Flemings Hawks jersey.
Okay, I like it.
And this past week was also, staying on the hardwood, a super busy and exciting one for your Cougar women's basketball program. We are starting to see the coming season's roster take shape, and it looks like a really exciting one to come, as we'll talk about even potentially beyond next season. Since we last recorded, talked about the Janiah Williams ad last week from Oregon, but since then, the Cougars have added guards Kaylin Hamilton and Esmeralda Enriquez, and front court players Justin Carlton and Elodie Lutbert. 4 transfers we all expect to play some level of significant role in the coming season team. Bobby, where would you like to start? And of course, give me any big picture thoughts you have on these latest additions to the Cougar women's basketball roster.
Yeah, I will kind of start big picture here. Something that I have really liked that I've seen from this portal class, and it just is one of those things that caught my attention. It was a little bit of a trend, and then I was like, hey, wait a minute, that's actually what's going on here. Everyone has more than 1 year of eligibility. Every single player you've recruited in has more than 1 year of eligibility, which tells me that this team, that the staff clearly thinks that they're going to be better next year. And based on the players that we've gotten, it does seem they will be better next year. But the goal is not 26, 27. The goal is clearly 27, 28 to really kind of make that run. I'm not saying a national title or anything like that, but kind of get up there at, near the top of the Big 12 when you, in 2 years, where you will have a bunch of these transfers who come in. You'll have a good mix of seniors. You'll have a good mix of juniors on this team that have experience playing under this staff. But to kind of go back to the players that we actually brought in, the one that's got to catch your attention is going to be Justice Carlton. Arguably one of the biggest players to come into this program, at least since you and I have been fans, Sam, since that 2007 season. Was a consistent player on a Final Four team last year with Texas. She was Texas's 4th leading scorer this year. We've often said, you and I in this year have said, we just can't put the ball in the bucket. We need someone who can do that for us. Justice is shooting 53% from the field. Just an amazing get from the staff.
Yeah, I would agree. Like you said at the beginning, what excites me the most, big picture, is we're starting to see what the multi-year plan looks like now with Matthew Mitchell going to his 2nd year as head coach. the most recent completed season kind of felt like the staff trying to fill out a roster after arriving pretty late in the transfer cycle. I don't say that to demean this most recent season's team, but it was largely a mixture of veteran transfers on their last year or two of college, freshmen who signed into the previous coaching staff who were willing to stick around, and a few returnees who had played this season before. Emphasis on a few. I think it was 2 or 3 players total. It was more of a dice roll that, hey, maybe you get breakout seasons from some of these vets who had been role players in other power conference teams, or from the returners or incoming freshmen, whereas the 26-27 roster build looks a bit more like you'd expect from a staff who's now had a full cycle to recruit, build out a roster, figure out what they want to do here. You got a good roster mix of classes right now as we record. This might be different by the end of the week, but the only class where you only have one player is senior, where you have reserve Big Jordan Ross. And as you pointed out here and in our conversations off air, you've brought in exclusively players who have multiple years of eligibility so far. And again, in this current era, you shouldn't be too quick to assume players won't transfer just because it happens so much more often these days. But you'd have to think that the multi-year nature of this plan was part of Mitchell and the staff's pitch to players. Basically, you get this group, plus you just do at least a couple more players here on campus in the coming season. Everyone figures out their roles. The team does better in Big 12 competition this coming season than they did last year. And then when you have that season under your belt, plus maybe some ads in the next cycle, you're ready to compete potentially in a higher tier of the Big 12 than you've ever competed in any season since you moved to this league. You said it, Justice Carlton is the headliner, 9.5 points per game, started conference play and the end of non-conference play for the Longhorns this season, averaged 9.5 in just under 20 minutes per game, scored double digits in their SEC championship game win over South Carolina and in their Elite 8 blowout win over Michigan in the most recent tournament. Also her freshman season, now 2 seasons ago, played in 34 games, scored in double digits in that one 6 times. Was it really, I mean, you assume because of where she was at, not to compliment the program in Austin too much, but you assume she's probably an elite recruit, but worth reiterating, was a really, really good girls basketball recruit. Was number 12 in the entire class of 2024. Will be coming in here and playing with her sister Madison, who I believe is a 4-star. She's part of U of H's incoming freshman class. Can't speak to whether or not the Horn staff viewed Justice Carlton as a long-term player to build around and whether that did or didn't play a part in her not returning to Austin. But for me, it's simple. If she was good enough to start and make meaningful on-court contributions for a Final Four team, perennially one of the better programs in all of college women's basketball, that tells me there was a lot of programs who had better seasons last year than the Cougs did that she could have gone to, but she's here, and that should be very exciting for anyone who's paying attention, which seems to be a larger number of people. It seems to be people are like, oh, like that's the level of player we're getting. You see people beyond the hardcores like us, like actually paying attention to what Cougar women's basketball is doing. Really like the first ad of this past week too, from the Metroplex originally, Kaylin Hamilton, because she really seems to check a lot of the boxes you'd want to see from a player transferring up to a larger program. She was the Mountain West's conference 6th person of the year, playing for a San Diego State team that won the Mountain West regular season title, largely dominated conference competition there. She led all bench scorers, was second on the Aztecs in steals. If I had to guess, she'll come off the bench here for the Cougars, but I like that if we're getting a player transferring up for a low-level program and someone who's capable of doing things that, quite frankly, if she's coming off the bench for you, she's probably better than anyone you've had coming off the bench for you in many years. Like we haven't had a conference bench player of the year level player, even going back to the American days in a long, long time. Again, had to guess that's what her role is going to be, but expect her to play a fair amount for the Cougs. Really excited also about Lodi Lutbert, 6'6" post player coming in from Tarleton. Obviously, whack to Big 12, she'll be taking a big step up in competition, but had a really strong first season of American college basketball. She was the first freshman selected to the WAC's postseason all-defensive team, broke the Tarleton record as a freshman for blocked shots and rebounds in a single season, averaged just under 10.5 points per game, led her team with 7.8 rebounds and 21 minutes per game. First Tarleton freshman in 40 years, Bobby, to have 9 double-doubles, most in their Division I history because they were D2 or NAIA the last time a player had more than that, which I think speaks not to just her rebounding and defensive skills. Those are there in spades, but there's also a player here who has a post-offensive game that I think can develop in the long term here. Clearly one of those players you see her freshman season, and it's clear, okay, she's got to play for a bigger conference program by the end of her college career. Also played a little international ball. She's from the French territory of Martinique in the Caribbean, and she has some experience representing France's youth team at various FIBA competitions. Like I think those two ads on top of Carlton. Haven't mentioned Esmeralda Enriquez. I'll let you get to her and any other thoughts you have on the transfers here, but it's you don't have to talk yourself into it too much. Like you see these players, you're like, okay, like, yeah, this is the kind of role they're going to play. Like these are the kind of players who are transferring to a Big 12 program. You're not taking gambles on role players from other programs like that. Like they're really exciting ads.
Yeah, like I said a couple of weeks ago or even a month ago, it really seems like when the portal opened up and we were losing a bunch of players, and I kind of went through recruits and that kind of stuff, it really kind of dawned on me that we were just looking to get bigger. And I think a 6'6" center, 3 inches taller than anything that you had on the roster last year, is certainly going to help with that. 10 points, 8 boards a game. Definitely everything that you're looking for in terms of really feels like this coaching staff wants to run a more traditional looking offense than what Coach Huey ran in terms of speed, getting out and doing things like that. So I think Elodie Lidhart is really, really a big name there. And then Esmeralda Enriquez coming from Eastern Arizona, I believe. My brain just
You're right.
farted
Eastern
out.
Arizona.
In junior college, kind of weird to see someone going from junior college to Division I Big 12 play, but shot 46% from the field, 45% from 3. Exactly what you're looking for there. Played 24 minutes a game, averaged 16 a game at the junior college level. Kind of feels like a player who can come in as a sophomore. She can come in or she'll come in as a junior. And again, has more than 1 year of eligibility remaining, and I really believe can come in and be one of those key spark plugs off the bench. You get her in here, you get her trained up in the Big 12 way, and get her on a Big 12 training regimen, things like that. And I think you're going to see some results from her sooner rather than later.
Yeah, won the NJCAA Division One, which is the biggest JUCO division, national title. She was the tournament MVP, the NJCAA D1 Player of the Year, first team All-American. Basically, anything you could get in terms of postseason honors in junior college basketball, Esmeralda Enriquez got it this past year with Eastern Arizona, originally from Yakima, Washington, averaged over 18 points per game her freshman season at North Idaho College as well. All the caveats we've said about transferring up in Division One certainly applies to Enriquez coming from the JUCO ranks, but also not speaking out of turn and saying that we have not had a junior college player come into this program with her pedigree since we started covering this team, and I'm excited to see what her role looks like playing for the Cougs next season. We've both said it. Hard not to be really excited about what the coming season is going to look like. There are probably still roster spots to be filled here. Like the men, I think you have 11 right now as we record, so that leaves possibly 4 roster spots to be filled. Don't think you're going to go in the season with 11, but even if Coach Mitchell and the staff don't add anyone who's going to be a certain big contributor for the coming season in this remaining cycle, I mean, not going overboard to say this should be a much, much improved team, one of the most improved teams in the athletic department in the season to come.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of my big takeaway, that I think maybe they aren't, Big 12 contenders next year, but you have all these players with years of eligibility remaining, but you're going to do a really good job. And just, again, kind of like how I felt about soccer this year, you're just going to be a little bit of a pain in the better team side, and they're not going to want to play you. You may not make the tournament or anything like that, but you're just going to make it more difficult for teams to play you.
Yeah, you see a multi-year vision, which is exciting, and it's been,
and it's also exciting.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was just going to say it's also exciting because Coach Mitchell. It never, to me, I could be wrong here. I don't know how you felt about this. It's always kind of felt like Coach Mitchell was going to be here 2-3 years and maybe leave, and maybe he still will, right? But and I'm okay with that. I want the record to show I'm okay if we make the tournament next year and he leaves. Like, cool, man. Good on you. But
like, would love him to stay, but if it's the trade-off is year 3, it's a tournament team and you're risking him going, I mean, yeah, tournament team.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, and it seems like he's at least building a roster to be good for the next 3 or 4 years, not just next year, where he's trying to get another job, right? It's very easy to just like try and build a team to be really good next year, make the tournament, he leaves for a better job. No, it really feels like he knows that he's going to be here next year and the year after, at minimum.
Yeah, and I think that's really exciting. In addition to all the exciting things about the players coming in that we've talked about here. So sticking with sports in their off season now, we're going to continue our spring football series, even with spring football season now in the books, as U of H had spring game last Saturday. We're going to kick around another Cougar football related topic that interests us here tonight, looking ahead to the coming fall return of that sport that we love so much. Last week, we talked about the quarterback situation with your returner Connor Wigman and all-world quarterback recruit Keyshawn Henderson joining the program for spring practices. Still pretty current if you haven't had a chance to listen to last week's pod. But this week we figured we'd talk about something that, in my opinion, I haven't really seen talked about that much as a kind of a spring off-season topic, and that would be the Cougs defense. Worth reiterating, this is not me and Bobby trying to do a season preview or anything like that right now. That's 3 or 4 months away. And I get that the offense is getting a lot of the attention. I mean, this fan base was starving for offensive positivity of some kind going into last season, and you finally got an on-field product there worth being excited about in the short and long term. Retaining basically all of your key projected returnees, plus adding exciting players from the portal and high school recruiting classes. I mean, not to mention, if you're a Cougar fan who's about 35 or older like us, a lot of your formative experience in this program has been dynamite offenses and hit or miss defenses. Though again, depending on the year, we've definitely gotten to see some really good defenses over the years, just not usually 2 or 3 years in a row of very good defense. And for me, that 2025 Cougar defense kind of fell in the middle between that really good descriptor I just said, but certainly much, much better than the numerous mediocre or worse defenses that you and I have watched over our years. As Cougar fans, I would say it was closer to really good than mediocre or worse, but not all the way to really good as well. And looking back on it, I think I have more of an appreciation now for the job that your now second year defensive coordinator, Austin Armstrong, did last year. Yes, he inherited some really good players from a good 2024 defense, but you lost a not insignificant amount from that D. Anthony Holmes Jr. goes to Tech, AJ Halsey goes to LSU, Jeremiah Wilson goes to Florida State, and then one of your top transfer portal gets Keontae Scott, leaves after enrolling for the spring to follow his position coach to Miami, ended up being one of the Canes' most critical defensive players for the national runners-up. So I think taking all that into account, I can look back on 2025 and say, yeah, Armstrong did a good job putting a respectable defense in the field that was often the better of the two primary units on last year's team, even if I wouldn't put this 2025 defense among the 2 or 3 best that we've seen in our 20-ish years of following this program. Bobby, go many places with this. Where's your head at on the Cougs defense going into 2026?
Yeah, just kind of I'll talk more about what I saw during the spring, that kind of stuff, and what I've been reading about coming out of the spring. And it's how good the defensive backs look so far. Everyone keeps talking about it. I kind of watched some clips, and U of H football tweeted Paris Melvin coming in and getting an interception, taking it to the house. A couple of other reports that he forced a couple of fumbles, and that's kind of what we expected from Paris Melvin coming in as the stud freshman that he is. So really excited about that. Watching some videos from the spring game. I don't know if you noticed this, but boy, it is this defense is very physical, especially in the defensive backfield. If I were a U of H fan, I wouldn't be too upset if I saw a couple of more pass interference penalties this year, because, and I don't know if it's our receivers or what. I'm not a coach who can break down things like that, but there's definitely a lot of hand fighting going on, and you saw the Cougar defensive backs making a ton of plays in spring football from everything that I heard. Another one on that, one of the guys that the players told me to watch out for last year at the media days was the younger McCutcheon, Latravion, and he's been flying around spring practice, is what everyone's saying. So you bring him back. So just you bring back a lot of really good performers from last year. You lost some really good performers as well. One that you lost was Carlos Allen, but you bring in your Oregon transfer in Ashton Porter, and he's made it very clear that he is going to play for that spot, win that spot, and just make sure not that you forget Carlos Allen, because how could you? But comes in and is trying to solidify his spot on the roster, and hopefully we don't see as big of a step back as you and I may have thought losing Carlos Allen.
Yeah, one of the things that really excited me about this most recent transfer portal class coming into the Cougars is that the staff seemed to very intentionally address some of those key departures that you alluded to here. You lost experience at linebacker, both with the graduation of Jalen Garner and Corey Platt transferring to Tech. You bring in Jaden Yates, one of the top tacklers in the country 2 seasons ago at Marshall, and a guy who was good enough to at least be a part-time starter and rotation guy for an Ole Miss team that was in the college football playoff. Also brought in Miller Malone, a U of H legacy, who got on the field a bunch his first 2 college seasons at Western Kentucky. You lose Carlos Allen, like you said, just a real steadying force these last 2 seasons, a linchpin of your defensive line. You bring in a space-eating interior guy with Big 12 and SEC starting experience in Demarion Thomas, who was most recently at Oklahoma State, but also played for a good Vandy defense. Prior to that, standout lower-level guy also in Ejiro Egbobara from Yale, and the guy you mentioned from Oregon, Ashton Porter, as well. Not to mention the defensive front, you got Trey McCutcheon returning as well, in addition to the guys from the last 2 high school cycles. And I want to zoom in on the defensive backs as well. Jalen Mayo, actually your highest rated transfer per 247, really excites me. Obviously making a big jump from even being on an elite FCS defense last year at SFA to now, but I like that he's made that jump before. He played at Virginia Union in D2 previously, was a standout in D2 before that, made the jump from D2 to FCS, which is itself not a small jump. So this guy's already done it before. He was brought here by his position coach, the recruiting coordinator at SFA, Marcus Trice, who's now your cornerbacks coach on the staff as well. So there's familiarity there. In addition to, I think, returning a decent amount, returning Kentrell Webb, who's been a standout these last 2 seasons on defense. No guarantees in this life, and certainly no guarantees when it comes to scouting players from the transfer portal. But this doesn't look like what U of H was doing in the portal 3 seasons ago, going into the first Big 12 season, or Holgorsen. Even what the Willie Fritz staff was doing going into their first season here 2 years ago, though you did end up getting a lot of strong difference makers from your first transfer class, especially on defense. And that's why I'm excited. Even with some big, not easy to replace guys who are no longer be playing for the Cougs this coming season, you have some exciting names. You have answers that you're not having to convince yourself too hard that, hey, this guy could be a fit here. This guy could go to the Big 12 level and be a stay. Like Ashton Porter wasn't a starter at Oregon, but was good enough to play a good number of reps at Oregon. Doesn't stretch credulity that he can go from a CFP team to, we'll say in U of H's case, probably in that tier just below CFP, top 25, top 30 in the country level team. Like, you see it there. And I like the stability too, not just retaining some key projected returning players, but the fact that you're not going to Willie Fritz's 3rd season with a 3rd different defensive coordinator after losing Shield Wood after his 1st season and bringing in Armstrong. I mean, it's to be expected that you had a little bit less stability at the position coach level, but James Ross, your edge rushers coach, and Oscar Giles, your D-line coach, were both in the original staff here. You have Armstrong, as I just mentioned, going into his 2nd year. And I'm glad you mentioned Paris Melvin. You don't want to put too much expectation too soon on a guy who's going to be playing as a true freshman, but you saw a lot of Paris Melvin in the spring highlights. You heard a lot of Paris Melvin in the spring football talk. And from your recruit, who was by a wide margin probably your best non-Keyshawn Henderson recruit in that 2026 class, that's exciting. Like, you want to see that guy hit the ground running. Sounds like it's going to be a bit longer term, in terms of him playing receiver at this level. I don't want them to rush that. Certainly you brought him here to be a 2-way player, 3-way if you include returning kicks and punts long-term, but if he's ready to play DB as a freshman and maybe needs a season or two to kind of get there at receiver, that's fine. Like, you're pretty veteran at receiver. You don't need to rush him there. Give the kid what he's ready to handle now going to this first season, and let him learn long-term on the offensive side of the ball. Like, that's really exciting too. That's just another exciting side plot to watch. I mean, I certainly left more excited about what the Cougs have on defense. Not that I was ever like down on it, but once I kind of put my thoughts together for this segment, Bobby, I got a lot more excited. I'm like, oh, actually, we're going to be pretty exciting on this side of the ball. Like, you lost some key guys, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that is, we had talked about how bad the offense was a couple of years ago, and really the only thing that kept us in games that year, even games that we were getting beat pretty bad, was to make things respectable, was the defense. And you saw a little bit of a step back, but buddy, you are making the portal moves, you're making the recruiting moves that you, like you said, you haven't seen in a couple of years.
No doubt. We'll also quickly mention, not going to talk about this more in depth until it actually happens, but we'll acknowledge that we have the 2026 NFL draft beginning on Thursday night, and we'll talk about that, where U of H guys get picked, undrafted, free agent deals, all that jazz next week, but at least wanted to acknowledge that was happening before we moved on from the topic of football entirely. Bob, you going to be locked in on the couch Thursday night waiting for the do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do?
You know this about me, and the NFL draft is one of my favorite events every year. So yes, I will absolutely be locked in Thursday night. I don't know why I like it so much. Actually, I do know why I like it so much. My cousin was drafted in 2003, and I just remember I learned everything about the NFL draft that year. I knew who everyone was going to go to. We go to
that was the
draft
Andre
party.
Johnson draft, right? Sorry to cut you off.
I have no idea. I can't remember off the top of my head now. That was 23 years ago. But I was the guy that I mean, I'm 13, right, in 2003, and we're at my cousin's draft party, and I'm the one everyone's turning to, like, hey, who are these guys going to take? And I'm just like, boom, 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 just raffling things off. Because, buddy, I was locked in on that 2003 draft.
I did mess up. Andre was the third overall pick in that draft. Google tells me, unless Google is lying to me, but I'm pretty sure it's not. Look at you, mini Mel Kiper Jr. of the early 2000s there.
And ever since then, I've been locked in the whole time. I love the NFL draft. And as I've gotten older, it's changed a little bit, because like now I'm excited to watch guys live their dream. Before I was like, man, I wonder how it's going to make this team better. But now I'm like, how cool is it that like this is a thing that exists, and these guys they've worked their whole lives for it, and here they are. So just kind of a cool thing. So yes, I will be locked in Thursday night.
I think the last draft that I watched a good amount of was the COVID year draft, and that's because, buddy, we were all starving for anything to watch that wasn't Tiger King or reruns of the same show we were binging 2 months before.
Correct.
We'll kick the spring sports off tonight talking about the Cougar women's golf team's upcoming trip to the Big 12 Championships, which I might have jumped the gun 1 week ago when I entered this segment by mentioning, which we'll do here in a little segment that we like to call Cougar Golf Corner.
Well, like Sam said, the women's golf team is headed to the Big 12 Championships this weekend. Just to kind of give you a preview, we're going to dive into it a little bit here. You are looking at I will read you the rankings of the teams participating. You have UCF coming in at 15, ASU is at 21, OSU is at 22, Iowa State is number 25 in the country, Baylor is at number 26, Arizona is at number 29, U of H comes in at number 36, Kansas is 37, Kansas State is 38, TCU is 42, Colorado is 47, and Texas Tech is coming in at number 52. So you see a lot of schools bunched up right there in the certain areas. You have individuals participating, number 18, 50, 55, 79. MOA is number 69. You have number 57, number 39, number 89, number 87, all participating as well. So you have a lot of top 100 talent here, which is saying a lot. Think of every Division I team. They all got 5 or 6 golfers on them. That's a lot of golfers, and you got a good amount inside the top 100. But heading into the tournament, I think it's pretty clear the favorite is UCF. Where I think UCF does really well is at the top end of their roster. You're looking at the number 39 player in the country, and Pimpisa Sandwich is her nickname. Swistem. To be honest, there is no pronunciation guide that I could find on this, so I will call her Sandwich going forward because that is on their website.
If it's her actual nickname, I think it's fair game.
It's just it has it in quotes on the Central Florida Golden Knights website. It says that. So they also have the number 89th ranked player. Then you added the 106th. After UCF, like I said, it's kind of a jumbled mess. You see Arizona State at number 21, and then you have a good amount of teams up into the top 40. I truly think that any of the 8 teams kind of playing in that range could all take 2nd or 8th or 10th, you know. ASU, for instance, has a top 20 player, but their next best player is 112th in the country. Iowa State has 2 top 60 players, but their number 3 is number 162 in the country. So when I talk about this Cougar lineup that I'm about to go through, you can kind of see what I'm talking about here in a second. So your number 1 player is going to be Moa Savinaskold. She's number 69th in the country. Truly has a shot to win the individual title. She's that level of talent. She could go low and take the title there. But then next up, your number 2 is going to be Maylin Kim. She's number 113th in the country. So you can already see our top 2 may not be to the level of the other top 2s, but Maylin Kim could be kind of a sleeper to really boost this team if she and Moa can, if they can be, if they can finish top of the scoreboard, you know, in top 10s, the Cougs really got a shot at winning this. And then here's where you start to see the depth of this Cougar team. Your number 3 player is ranked number 124, and that's Natalie St. Germain. When you kind of look around, she's probably one of the better number 3s. But I think she's the actual cog to kind of put everything in motion for the Cougs this year. She can go very, very low, but she can also go very, very high. You see a tournament like the Huntington Bank that just happened in Dallas, where she finishes 6th in a really good field. Then she'll go to a tournament, shoot 11 over, and finish 65th. So if you can get some performance out of her, I think you're doing pretty good there. Coming in as your 4th is going to be Alexis Saldana. She comes in at number 208 in the country. That's better than I think every other number 4 that you're going to see. So where you don't have that top high-end talent, where you got somebody ranking in the top 20 or 30, Moa still gets you pretty close at number 70. Moa would be a pretty good number 2 on most teams in the Big 12, but Alexis Saldana coming in at number 208 is probably the best number 4 in the conference. So you really need her to keep it in front of her. You aren't expecting her to win, but a top 50 from her, and you got a really good chance at winning this whole thing. So a top 50, top 55 individual performance from Alexa here, and you're feeling really good about where the Cougs stand. And then the Cougs actually have 2 registered to be their to be their 5th player. You have Sadie Adams and Amelia Vallesto. I lean towards Amelia taking that spot. She's simply played in more tournaments this year, and what that tells you is that she's out-qualified Sadie multiple times to play in more tournaments this year. So yeah, I would lean towards Sadie being, or Amelia being your number 5. And then just some heads up, the tournament takes place at Dallas Athletic Club. You have 36 holes out there. Not sure which course they will be playing on. But But overall, I think the Cougs come in and they come into this one as a dark horse candidate to win. A lot of teams have higher ranked individuals, but like I said, the team depth is just higher for the Cougs. Saint Germain is one of the best number threes. Alexis Saldana's probably the best number four. So I think you got a really good chance that your 3, 4, 5 players can all finish above the other teams. It's going to be how does the top 2 do, and do your bottom 3 just keep you in it. That's kind of what you're looking for from them. So I truly think a top 5 is doable, and a medalist finish, if everything goes right, isn't out of the question here. The Cougs have done a good job of beating the teams that are worse than them in the rankings, but they need to kind of beat some teams that are ranked higher than them. You haven't seen them do that a lot this year. But I think a top 5 finish isn't out of the question, but don't be surprised if they do finish 7th or 8th. That's kind of where they fall in the conference right now.
You mentioned this. You're a DFW golf guy. I was going to say, what do you know about the course itself? Like, obviously, very informative. Good job letting me know where the teams are, where the Cougars rank the players. What do you know about the Dallas Athletic Club's courses? And I acknowledging what you said, like it's some uncertainty of like which one you're actually playing on. Is this one like as a golfer, if you were going to play this course, like what are the standout things about it, of what you know?
Yeah, to be honest with you, Sam, it's really hard to find anything. It's that private. I don't know anybody.
I saw downtown Dallas private, and I was just like, "Ooh, this is old money."
Yeah. It's insane. It's fairly long. But again, I don't know what the ladies will be playing it at, because obviously they don't play. Like a lot of times, people think that like when they go out to the public course and the red tees, the forward tees. Yes, I am so woke that I call them the forward tees, not the ladies tees, because I think a lot of guys need to be playing the red tees. And so people think that like those are the tees that college golfers are playing from. They're not, right? They're also not tipping it out at 7,200. I would venture to say they're probably playing from 6,500, 6,400 yards, maybe even dipping down to 63. So where do they take those 800 yards out of the course is going to be completely different, right? It could be maybe they play the par 3s back a little bit and you gain it on par 5s and you play super forward tees or something like that. So without knowing how the course is really set up, it's kind of hard to answer that. All I can tell you is courses in DFW right now are in pristine condition. It's going to be a little wet here. It's been raining, and it's supposed to rain the first day of the tournament Thursday. Now, will it hit the course? Will it drench the course? I don't think that. But anytime you get very soft conditions like that, you got a really, really good chance at going low. But the winds
the ball's
will
not
pick
going to
up a
roll
little
as
bit
much,
on Thursday.
basically.
Yeah, and you just have an easier time holding the greens. And so you can attack pins a little bit more. If you are going to, when it's softer out, you can usually shoot lower. You get a little bit more spin into the green, so you're able to attack pins a little bit more. You can, the ground's a little softer, so you can throw the ball up a little bit more. The only problem that we may see on Thursday is a little bit of wind, and wind wreaks havoc on golfers. But I think overall, you're going to see some pretty good scoring conditions for the Big 12 tournament. So you got to hope that you are able to get out there and just go low. Like, I know you always want to go low, but I don't think you're going to be fighting any crazy conditions. I think the course, like a lot of courses in DFW right now, the greens are going to be perfect, but they are going to be very soft. You may even be playing lift clean in place. So yeah, I think you have those opportunities. And but Friday looks to be not very windy. Thursday is going to be a little windy. Saturday will be calm as well, but there could be some rain coming in on Saturday as well. So it's all going to really just boil down to can you attack pins? How does your game equate to that?
Yeah, and avoiding the trouble you've had at different points historically with the second and third day rounds. I'm sure that's going to be obviously critically important over the 3 days of this event as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So excited to see how the Cougs do there, and we will stick with the country club sports that were involved in postseason play or about to be involved in postseason play in the case of women's golf, which we'll discuss in our latest edition of Cougar Tennis Corner. right after we recorded the last podcast, Wednesday morning, the Cougs took on Texas Tech at the Big 12 Championships, which were hosted at the U.S. Tennis Association, the USTA's campus in Orlando, Florida. The U of H Tech matchup was an opening round matchup with the winner taking on 2-seed Arizona State. My concern coming in was that while U of H certainly had taken care of business in the matches you should have won recently, your top 2 or 3 court singles players, especially the top 2, hadn't been places where you were getting points even against the outmatched opponents. So Tech was going to be much more difficult, and you were probably going to need to win the doubles point to get this one, which no easy task. Tech has one of the Big 12's best doubles pairs in Murphy and Dmitrichenko. And while even Valeria were 1 game away from taking their match on court 3, the Lady Raiders won pretty convincingly on courts 1 and 2 to go up 1-0 going to the singles portion of the match. Sophie Schouten did get her 17th singles win of the spring on court 6 to briefly tie the match 1-1, but Tech won in straight sets on courts 2, 5, and 1 in that order to get to 4 points and clinch the overall match and advance in the tournament. We'll give credit to Valeria and Eva in courts 3 and 4 respectively. They were both up a set on their Tech opponents when the match went final, though both did look like they were going to need to play 3 sets to potentially win their matches. Tech ended up being one of, I think, the dark horse runs in this conference tournament. They beat the conference's highest ranked team, ASU, in their quarterfinal match immediately after this before falling to TCU in the semis. Bizarrely, Tech only got a 3-place bump despite beating multiple ranked teams in Florida. Tennis rankings seem to be kind of goofy the more I get to know them, even if I acknowledge the top of the rankings are probably correct. So that was the end of the Cougars conference postseason, though I think an achievement in itself that the first time the Big 12 actually selected teams, didn't just invite everybody to this postseason that you were able to get there. But we're now at the point where we're waiting on the NCAA tournament selection, which will be announced next Monday, April 27th on the NCAA's website at 3:30 p.m. Central. I'll certainly be watching, and if the Cougars are selected, they will be playing a first round match on either Friday or Saturday of that week with a potential second round matchup that coming Saturday or Sunday, depending on what day the first round match falls upon. Don't pretend to know enough about college tennis bigger picture to make a strong prediction about what the bracket will look like. Like, I know Georgia is the defending women's champion. UGA is also hosting the final 3 rounds of the championship at Athens. And I know the names of who some of the better teams are there, but not enough to do a bracketology of like who is or isn't in the field there. U of H is likely going to have to sweat this a bit, but in my biased opinion, you don't get to be a well above 500 Big 12 record kind of team if you're not a postseason worthy team. Like, I get that, yes, there are better teams in the Big 12 than the Cougars this season. UCF and ASU, I think, are kind of in a tier on their own, though TCU, I think, played really strong down the stretch. So I think you might put TCU in that tier with them as well. Maybe your tier of regional host teams there, and then immediately below that, but probably a little bit above the Cougars, Baylor and Tech. And I think I would put the Cougars, even though these 2 teams are ranked ahead of the Cougars, I would put BYU and Utah with the Cougs as well, because the Cougs did win their head-to-heads with those 2 opponents earlier in the season. I mean, obviously, I hope Wednesday isn't the last time we see this group play tennis, but if last Wednesday was the last time the Cougars are playing tennis, I was honored and privileged to have watched this team. I mean, this was the best team here in over a decade, and a season that, quite frankly, 2 years ago when Houston Cougar tennis was going 0 in Big 12 play, would have felt like a fantasy. Like, I always believed that, hey, we should expect more from all of our varsity intercollegiate athletic programs than going 0 conference play and being woefully uncompetitive in going 0 conference play, which to this point, right now, the only team in now the closing stages of your 3rd season of Big 12 play that's gone 0 conference play was that 2024 Cougar tennis team immediately prior to the hire of Kat Adamovich from Grand Canyon. And now going into her 2nd season here, like, you have a team with a legitimate NCAA tournament case. I thought this team would be seriously improved. I was probably in the high end of optimism about how improved the Cougars could be here this season, but I didn't take going 8-5 in conference as a given this year. I saw the first few matches and I thought, hey, like this team looks better, but yeah, I see it against better opponents. So I think this team does deserve to be in the postseason, but I think it's fair to say you're kind of in the bubble. I think the good news, something I have picked up, though again, we'll say this isn't like a bracketology level prediction. I haven't really done a serious breakdown of the numbers, but tennis is pretty chalky in terms of like who's winning the conferences outside the top 3 or 4. Like Rice won the American, and Rice was one of the better. Like you're not seeing a lot of teams bid steal, if that makes sense. Like if there's a really good team in a smaller league, like Adamovich's Grand Canyon 2 seasons ago is an example. Like they were by far the best WAC women's tennis team, and then won the tournament. Like if you are a ranked group of 6-ish kind of team, chances are you're going to win. Like there's not going to be a team that's like off the board and like, wow, they make a crazy run. Like chances are if you're a ranked non-power team, you're going to win your league. So there's going to be, I think, pretty chalky there, which I think is to the Cougars' benefit. But to say it for not the first time here, can't predict it. I think you're going to be sweating it a bit, but I think there is a good case to be made for this team making the tournament. You don't have any bad losses. I basically, all 5 of the teams you lost to in conference play, including the Tech team you lost to in the Big 12 tournament here, are all not just in the NCAA postseason level of teams, but in the NCAA level of postseason teams, and in a few cases, regional host good level of teams. So that's where Cougar Tennis is at. Hopefully next week we are coming back here to talk about a team that's going to be playing the NCAA tournament for the first time in 11 years. But we'll say, again, if they aren't, it's been an honor and a privilege, and by far the best season we've talked about from Cougar Tennis in our 11th season of doing the show.
Yeah, super exciting season. You got me pumped up for it and everything. But I have a question. Is there a reason I just found this weird that selection Sunday or Monday isn't until next Monday? Why is there such a long gap between? Is it like the schools kind of know when they got to book logistics? Like what is the reasoning for that, if you have any idea?
Well, I mean, some tournaments are happening this week. I don't know if any of them, I think most of them are done by this point, but some tournaments are happening this coming week. Not everybody did the exact same schedule as the Cougars, though I think a lot of them did. Like, I don't think you're going to be having teams playing next Saturday and Sunday, for example, but I think some of it's scheduling, some of it's logistics, and some of it is just, honestly, Bobby, I'm still new enough to the sport that I don't have a super, super definitive answer.
Understood.
To that question. But I think, the Cougs were one of the earlier of the power conference teams in terms of when they played their conference championship. But they didn't even have they didn't even have a like, I was looking for this date last week. They didn't even have a specific date and time to announce the bracket. Because obviously, as I've said to you and I've said on the show, I would like to be here be there when the team plays their NCAA tournament game. So I was trying to find out, like, hey, I thought it might have been this weekend. That's how unclear it was. And then finally, like late last week, it was like, hey, it's going to be in early May at some point. And I'm like, we're only 2 weeks out. How do you not have a specific date this stuff is going to happen on yet? Which,
pretty
the more
crazy.
You learn about the more you learn about NCAA tennis, the less surprising that fact is. But do have definitive dates. As I said back there, it's going to be a week from Friday and Saturday for the first round stuff. If the Cougs are going there,
excellent.
We'll talk the bat and ball sports pretty quickly here, but it's going to shock you all to find out that this has not been a good past weekend. That was, I did the math on this in my head as I was driving home, Bobby. These 2 programs have combined to play 42 Big 12 contests, baseball and softball. How many, off the top of your head, do you think they've won out of those 42 to date?
Well, I know we got 4 in one weekend, so
we did.
There's 4. For some reason, I want to say like 7.
Bingo. We are currently 7-35, 3-18.
Is that good, Sam?
Did I have that wrong? maybe I have we have won. I know we have won 7. This is what I get for asking a question off the top of my head. I know we have won 7 Big 12 contests. We've won 7 Big 12 contests, and in the case of softball, have played all but 1 Big 12 series. And in the case of baseball, you could say have at least played more. You played the majority of your schedule, like a decent amount still left.
Yeah.
But so let's see. Oh, excuse me. 7-32. Sorry, 7-32. I was 3 games off there. You were 7-32 for 39 games total. We're going to start with baseball. A week where Cougar baseball flashed the ability to beat a higher level opponent, but also I think showed the underlying flaws that have plagued this team and why you're still sitting dead last currently in the Big 12 standings. I think we mentioned it quickly last episode while it was ongoing. Cougs lost to a very good A&M team, 10-2 College Station in the midweek. Not really much to add there. For the weekend, you traveled up to the Mid-Atlantic to take on a top 25 West Virginia team. Got your first ever head-to-head win over the Mountaineers since joining the Big 12. Won 10-7 in the Friday opener. But the Cougs also combined for 4 runs in the remaining 2 games of the series, ultimately losing 2 of 3 of the Mountaineers. Kind of typical of the season. Flashes of brilliance from a lineup that's had its moments, but not enough over the course of a weekend against quality pitching, and certainly not enough pitching to win the series against a good opponent. I've made this point on here before, but it is kind of maddening that this team is good enough to have 5 wins over really good opponents this season. That win this past weekend over West Virginia, your previous wins over UT Austin, Wake Forest, Boston College, and Bama. Those are all teams who will either be among the higher seeded NCAA tournament teams or even hosting regionals. You could beat those teams, but we're also still talking about a team that's under 500 overall and currently is 4-14 in Big 12 play. It's what the season has been, Bobby. It is a little bit maddening.
Yeah, I don't know if there's been a more frustrating U of H team to watch in the last 7 or 8 years, and I'm talking all sports here, where you just see them clearly do really, 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 really good things, and then at the same time do really, 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 really bad things at the same time. And it's just, it's almost one of those things where if you were consistently bad and if you don't win those 5 games against those hosting regional style teams, maybe you still feel bad about the season, but it's less frustrating. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it just stinks how little this program moves the needle for us and the larger Cougar fan base now, because I love college baseball. I watched so much college baseball as a much younger man with you and other friends. I want so badly for this program to be back at a place where I'm tuning into the Memorial Day NCAA baseball selection show, but it's not there. It's not even close to it nowadays. I mean,
nope.
Probably the next time I'll come on here and be excited to talk about Cougar baseball is when U of H makes the inevitable announcement after the final series against Arizona State that Todd Whitting and the staff won't be returning for 2027. And that feels kind of crass to say because we are still talking about real people losing their jobs, but also the nature of this job is if you don't win, and in this case, you're probably going to be missing the Big 12 postseason for the second time in 3 years. And if you don't make the NCAA postseason, which you haven't done since 2018, you don't get to keep your job forever. And
nope,
that's tough. But this staff and this head coach have also gotten a much longer runway than I would say go as far as say 99% of Division I baseball coaches at programs that have at least historically periodically gone to the postseason and periodically won conference titles, which this team has. I mean, and I'm not even saying you should be doing that in the Big 12 right now, but I mean, you're not even qualifying for the fucking conference tournament, man. Like that's
yeah, that's
you're
why
you're not gonna do it this year, and you didn't do it 2 years ago, and you barely did it last year, honestly.
Look, I don't think that my expectations for this team are that they should win the Big 12 or even. I just occasionally want to make the tournament. Like I want to make the tournament and I want to compete with teams. It doesn't even feel like we compete anymore. Like there's a chance we could go out and win this game. I haven't thought that at all this year. And when we do, I'm like, oh, nice. That's a pleasant surprise. But at no point this year have I been like, you know what? This team's going out. They're going to wreck shop. And, hey, you play X team that, you play West Virginia, who's ranked. hey, we got a shot at taking 2 or 3 off these guys if everything falls right on Sunday and our Friday night guy gives us what a Friday, like that hasn't happened. And it's a damn shame that it hasn't. Just be on the bubble every year for the tournament and then make the tournament occasionally. Make the tournament every other year, but on the bubble the other years. That's literally at this point all I'm asking for. I am not asking for you to host a regional every year. I would love to occasionally host a regional, be up there as one of the better teams in the country. You occasionally do that once every recruiting cycle, and then you come back and then you make the tournament, or you're on the bubble, or you go in as a 3 seed. I don't think that's unreasonable to ask.
And I've told the story in here before. 9 years ago now, I was gonna say you know this guy, fellow best man of the pod, Sean. Dustin and I were or fellow groomsman of the pod, Sean. Excuse me. Sorry,
Bill's so mad
best
right
man
now.
of the pod, Bill, for me briefly
Bill is so mad right now.
conflating our roles with his chief role. Dustin's like, no, fellow groomsman of the pod, Sean. Dustin and I were groomsmen at his wedding 9 years ago up in Conroe. So naturally, that was a higher priority than going to the baseball regional that we had that weekend. I was able to get out for the last 2 days of baseball there, and I didn't think at the time that, hey, this is going to be the last one of these I see in a decade. Like that wedding that I missed the first 2 days of Cougar baseball at the regional for has now produced one school-age child who is a big U of H fan, and we haven't been back to hosting a regional since then. We've only been to a regional period once the year after since then. I don't think that school-age child was alive the last time U of H went to the NCAA tournament. And given what this program has been historically, which is not to say it's been a powerhouse, but it is not a team that's usually had 8-year NCAA tournament droughts. I mean, Rainer Noble's got to be thinking like, man, I got fired after not making it 2 years in a row, and we're going on a decade now with a lot better facilities.
Rainer Noble was throwing tennis balls and softballs at players if they dodged out. That's probably
if one parent of a back end lefty reliever is to be believed.
Yeah, I mean, he was going out and telling pitchers that they only had 2 pitches, a ball and right down the middle. In less colorful language.
Yeah, I believe the father alleged that he used a different word for right down the middle there. Up next, Cougars will travel. They're traveling to Rice and playing tonight, which I think just started because of the rainy weather that's going through the Houston area. I don't have an update to that, and frankly, I'm not gonna really go crazy to find it. Hopefully, we take the season series with Rice. Nothing would surprise me there. But for the weekend, the Cougars will be traveling up to your neck of the woods to DFW to play a series against TCU. Horned Frogs have been weirdly up and down this year, but are still among the better teams in the Big 12. Should be a postseason team. Frankly, if U of H even gets a game from the series at Lupton Park, I'll be a bit surprised. Not asking you whether you're going or not this weekend. Have you ever been to TCU's ballpark, Bobby? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah,
I heard it's one of the better ones in the Big 12.
I went last year.
Did we play there last year? Or whenever we played there last?
The year before.
Yeah,
maybe our first year in the Big 12. Whenever we played in the...
Heard it's a nice park, though.
It is. I think I saw somewhere that they were talking about renovations. They could probably use it, but it's not like falling apart, decrepit by any means. But for a program at the level of TCU, it's kind of weird. You have to go up, like there is no like field level seating really. I think there's some behind the plate, but most of the seating is up in stands. That's kind of like a second level. Looks kind of cool. And I love the TCU campus. Again, if I had to choose a second Big 12 team, it's TCU. I always have a great time on their campus. Their fans are super nice. But yeah, solid ballpark. Nothing I would say is like, oh my God, this thing is the most incredible place, but it's a pretty good stadium.
Cool stuff. We'll close tonight with Cougar softball. Just wrapped its final home weekend series of the year, a sweep at the hands of Arizona State. Didn't have really an expectation that we'd take the series, but that result basically guarantees that U of H will not be playing in the Big 12 softball postseason, as only the top 8 teams in the conference standings are invited. That's a new change as of this year. It seems like across the board, the Big 12 has been, other than men's and women's basketball, has been kind of trimming the field a bit on the conference postseason, which I'm actually for. Like, I think,
I
think you should,
man. Travel.
Travel. And also I think you should be a certain level of team if you're going to compete in the multi-sport postseason level of events. I mean, this series against Arizona State was basically the same as it's been most of Big 12 play, with the Baylor series being a big and weird exception. You had some highlights from the hitters, but you surrendered 31 runs in 21 innings of softball. That's going to make winning any game extraordinarily difficult. Obviously, if your coaching staff can retain majority of the hitters, lineup that's done pretty well this season, then I think the long-term outlook there is pretty good. But I'm just going to say, I think you need to start completely from scratch pitching wise. You have a ERA in Big 12 play that's still over 10. Your number needs to be less than half that, probably a third of that, if you want to. Not even like compete for a Big 12 title. Fuck that. Like, compete for middle-ish of the Big 12 there. Like, you need to be at less than half that number, probably closer to a third or 40% of that number in conference play, and you're over 10 right now. And that's probably, and again, like, this is a much tougher level competition, so maybe compare one of the lesser American conference seasons. Maybe that staff does as badly as this one did against admittedly a very difficult strength of schedule, but I mean, by the numbers, probably your worst pitching season in program history. That's where we are, man.
I have nothing to say on this.
Yeah. What else is there? I'm sorry for taking all the points, but I mean, what else is there to say? The hitting is good. Like, that's good. I mean, it's better than like, hey, it's bad hitting and bad pitching, but I mean,
yeah. Sam, if you were to break into the top 50 ERA in the country, right, for the whole season, not conference play, top 50, what do you think you got to be at?
Like 2.2, 2.3?
3.38.
3.3, okay.
You got a lot of work to do, bud.
You have to shave over almost like 7 runs off that ERA to get there.
Yeah, if you look at the Cougs' whole season ERA, it is 282nd in the country. There is one, I'm seeing, Big 12 team behind you, and that is BYU.
I would bet our conference ERA is worse, though, if I had to guess. But yeah, NCAA doesn't keep that stat, so it's hard to find. But yeah.
Right. I pulled up the NCAA just to kind of see. Here's the company you keep around you. North Carolina Central, Tennessee State, A&M Corpus, UC Riverside, UTEP, Bucknell, California State University, Bakersfield.
Shout out Roadrunners.
Shout out the Roadrunners. It's incredible how bad this is.
Yeah, incredible can be negative too.
Yeah. I there's just no words for how bad this pitching staff has been this year. Dude, you scored 8 runs in a game and got doubled up.
Yeah. Like, scored 8 runs in a game, which most softball games should be enough to win it, and you didn't even
by 3 or 4.
You almost got run ruled.
It's incredible, man. It's unbelievable.
I mean, I guess the good news is the first year staff, and it's clear, like, okay, like, you had players that are willing to stick around. It's kind of like the same thing we talked about women's basketball. Like, hey, you had players who are willing to stick around. All right, yeah, we'll see what you got here. We'll give you a chance. Not much expectation this year's team anyway, so you might as well, hey, see what you got, see if you can develop these arms. And I think if nothing else, you've gotten a pretty clear no, the answer to that question. Like, it's stick, because you're talking about people here, so I don't want to be too tough on them, but I think the conversation you need to have is thank you, but I think the on-field results pretty clearly indicate that you're not a Big 12 level pitcher. Sorry.
Yeah, and it really feels like a Matthew Mitchell situation where you came in, you gave a bunch of people a chance to do some stuff, and All right, we're about to lose 8 players off of our 15 person roster, and we are going to just raise the floor a little bit here.
Yeah, I think it'll be a telling offseason because this coming series against Arizona, where you play at Tucson, last one of the year. I mean, they're 23-4 in Tucson. Not as strong pitching wise as you'd expect from a top 25 softball program, but I mean, 8 lineup regulars hitting 300 or better, 3 hitting 400 or better. Hard to see a lineup that good not feasting on a pitching staff that has struggled to keep much worse hitting opponents, even in single digits. I hope at some point in the future we could talk about a Cougar softball team that isn't dead last in the conference standings, but this will unfortunately not be that season. I mean, like I said earlier, the hitting is there, which is some good news. We thought it could be pretty good, but didn't take it as given they'd be improved. And I think they were on the high end of what you and I probably expect in the preseason in terms of how they've actually hit. But it's going to have to be a new or almost entirely new pitching staff going to 2027 if there's going to be any real hope of not having a 4th season of being dead last in the Big 12 in this sport.
Yep, it's if anything happens positive this weekend, it will be a surprise.
Yeah, you could probably say it for both bat and ball sports, honestly.
That is correct.
It's a blanket statement that kind of works there. Bobby, hate ending on a negative note, but that's where we have to be sometimes.
That's what we've had to do all spring season with our bat and ball sports.
I have said this before. I have so many memories of like good Cougar baseball teams, like traveling with Dustin to go watch us beat LSU at their regional, even though we had to go back because of work before that game happened. But seeing us in the postseason of baseball, seeing regional host good level softball teams, even 7 years ago, seeing us take UT down to the final game of their regional the last time this team was in the postseason. Like, I have memories of these programs being good, and it's been a very long time since both of them were even close to that level.
Yes, sir.
It'll make it so much better when they do return someday. That's what I'll keep telling myself.
Hey, that's what we told ourselves about basketball for a long time, buddy, and look at us now.
Yeah, it'll make the payoff so much sweeter. All right, buddy, take us home.
All right, well, I did forget to mention one thing in Golf Corner, Sam. I apologize for this.
No.
Saturday's final round of the Big 12 Championships, available on ESPN+.
Nice.
So if you are a sports fan and have ESPN+, and you are looking for something it's great background noise as you do other things around your house. So highly recommend it. Check to see if the Cougs are where they stand. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. Sorry for throwing that in too late, but that is it. Yeah. It's cool that they get a little bit of shine on ESPN. ESPN showing a little bit of love there. We could talk about all the faults ESPN has, but their coverage of Big 12 teams, you usually get some decent coverage. You can find most games. So that's pretty cool. But anyways, that is it for this week's episode of the Scott and Holman podcast. We thank you guys so much for listening and putting us on in your car, at your office, wherever you do it. We really do appreciate it. I know we say it, but it doesn't always sound like we mean it. We really do appreciate it. We love interacting with you guys. And if you got any feedback for us, you can find us on social media, on Twitter at SH Podcast. That's PAWDCAST for podcast. You can find us on Blue Sky. That is podcast.bsky.social. Again, PAWDCAST. And if you are wanting to send us an email, maybe you don't have social media, you don't use it anymore, good on you. You can email us at shpodcast@gmail.com. Or if you really want us to pay attention to you, you can find us on Patreon. For as little as $5 a month, we will be able to give you some premium content that you can enjoy to listen to.
Might have a basketball episode coming up now that we are starting to have the basketball roster take shape here in the next couple of weeks as that roster fills out too.
Yes, sir. Along with some, we may have some off-season stuff, all types of stuff. So we look forward to doing that. $5 a month minimum. If you want to give us more, Sam, we will absolutely take it, buddy. But if that is, I covered everything that I needed to cover. Sam, now that we have done an hour and a half of Cougar talk, what do we always say, buddy?
Go Cougs.
All right. Go Cougs. Let's go.